you landed in America at a pretty magical time. You're talking about doing shows with Metallica opening for you, Slayer open for you. That music was pretty much unprecedented at that time. And so those bills kind of make sense, but I wanted to know if in the early days of Venom, did you ever play on any really weird bills because somebody wasn't sure where to put you?
I don't think so, not really. We played with a lot of sort of more mainstream acts. Venom was always kind of headlining things, and we were lucky enough if we went to festivals or something like this, we were kind of closing the shows. So the only one I remember, because I was a massive fan of the band, was a band called Blackfoot.
Yeah.
And they were supporting us at a gig in Finland, and I just stood with my mouth open, wide
Wow.
open at the time of the stage. I was just so fucking gobsmacked that they were on there, and that we were going to be playing after them.
Yeah.
But no, not really. You talk about us and Slayer and Exodus and all this kind of stuff. When we started playing, yeah, it was new, it was fresh, it was exciting. But for every city and every gig we hit, there were thousands of kids with exactly the same mentality, had just been sitting waiting for this shit to happen.
Yeah.
They were the same mentality as us. They were the same thought patterns, and they would just go absolutely fucking crazy. And that's where all the stage dive and shit started, and all the mosh pits and all that kind of thing all grew out of that, just that mentality of like, fuck the church, fuck the school, fuck work, fuck mother, fuck father. I'm just going to go and have some fun with my mates. At some point, I've just got to let loose. And that's exactly what it was. It was released. It was band or a couple of bands for a couple of hours on a weekend. And don't forget, I'm never forgetting this, but a lot of those people, they had to work in shitty jobs and chose to come and spend that dollar on us. And buy our merch and this kind of thing. And it wasn't, that money wasn't free. It wasn't handed to them. They had to go and work for it, and they had to get that cash. And they chose to come and spend it on us. And I'll never forget that.
No.
Yeah. Yeah. You when you're out with Slayer and Metallica in those early days, obviously you couldn't imagine that they were going to take that style of music and be successful with it and make it mainstream. But they did. But Venom has always kind of remained an underground sort of cult band. What do you think is the reason for that? What separates you, especially compared to, say, like Slayer? Because Slayer, in a lot of ways, kind of mirrors Venom in terms of the satanic imagery and that sort of thing. But why were those bands able to take that extreme sound and be successful with it? And Venom had all the same ingredients, but never quite got to that level of mainstream popularity.
I think, in my opinion, the main thing was that part of the craziness that glued Venom together as individuals was also at that point coming unstuck. So at a point where we should have been on the crest of a wave, where we're doing At War with Satan and we're doing Possessed and this kind of thing, the guitarist was wanting to leave and he's wanting to play, like, I don't know, Whitesnake, Motley Crue songs. And we were like, no, we've got to get heavier. We've got to get faster. We've got to get more over the top. Look at Slayer. Look at how they're developing and changing. We've got to be doing that. We've got to be in front of them every time, at every turn. We need to be doing that. And the guitarist was the way, and like that didn't take long for ridiculously childish arguments to unsettle things. It's the same thing. If you've got this unhinged kind of craziness, I don't know, maybe it's a motor driver, maybe it's a guy doing sort of Indy or Formula One or something, and he's taking all the risks and he's taking all the chances and he's giving you all the excitement, and race after race after race. At some point, the daft cunt's going to crash, and that's what Venom did. We crashed. We crashed and burned, and it was only we didn't have a big management company to come along and say, look, he has XYZ amount of money to buy a new house, or he has a new car, go and work it out, or any tour promoters to come along and say, look, he has another tour, he has XYZ amount of money, and different hotels, you don't even have to stay with each other. There was nobody doing any of that. Eric, as I said, who was our manager, was just another one of us. He was just a mate, and he did his level best to hold it all together, but it just didn't happen, you know. So whether we would have been mainstream or not, we wouldn't have done. I'd like to think we wouldn't have done what Metallica did, which was to bend their shape, looks-wise, integrity-wise, music-wise. They changed to suit a bigger audience, which worked for them, you know.
Yeah.
Like I say, I think Venom would have carried on trying, in my opinion, trying to get heavier, faster, and louder, and be more over the top and more about the blast beats and all this kind of thing, and the stuff that's happening sort of now. You know, I would have wanted to be at the forefront of all these new metal bands.
Yeah. What's your take on some of the bands you've inspired, especially like the Norwegian, a lot of the death metal, black metal bands? I mean, now you've got bands that I think some of the humor of Venom is lost on them. They're burning churches, they're killing their band members. What's your take on some of the people that followed in your footsteps and sort of took that music to another level?
I mean, firstly, I'm very proud of it because it's like being a parent. You know, you've got these kids coming along and they're citing you as a you know, something to be looked up to. But you know, I mean, with the church burns, well, you can go too far. You know, there is a limit. You know, going and killing bandmates and whatnot. But I think the fact that we could be a central pin. I mean, you talk about bands, black metal bands up in Norway and whatever, but you can also talk about the German bands like Destruction and Sodom and Creator.
Yeah.
You can talk about Pantera. You can talk about Cradle of Filth. All of these bands don't necessarily come back. They all, you know, they come back to Venom. They come back to a central place. You know, a Norwegian band, over the top Norwegian band doing blast beats and these guttural vocals sound nothing like Pantera and nothing like Destruction. But when you bring the roots back, the roots come back to Venom. They don't necessarily come back to Black Sabbath anymore. They come back to Venom. Right. And all those, you know, thrash metal, death metal, speed metal, all comes from Venom.
Yeah.
Right. We were asked in an interview. The guy came from Kerrang magazine and he had the copy of this, you know, the new magazine with him, and it had Bon Jovi on the front cover. And he said, you know, to me, I don't think you're a heavy metal band. And we said, we're not. If that's the heavy metal Bible, that's Kerrang magazine, the heavy metal Bible, and it's got Bon Jovi on the front. That's a pop rock singer.
Yeah.
And if that's what your magazine's about, it's nothing to do with us. And he said, well, in that case, what are you? And we said, we're Venom metal, black metal, death metal, speed metal. And he was like, whoa, wait, I need to write all this down. Now, those terms hadn't been coined before then.
How early of an interview was that? What year do you recall?
It was with a guy called Gary Bushell, and it would have been probably just after black metal. We were probably still working on demos for A War with Satan.
Yeah. Okay.
And Gary was basically he was a punk, and there was a couple of pages, I think, in Kerrang at the time, which was still mentioned about punk bands and still writing up about punk bands. So Gary saw this crossover in us, and he came up to Newcastle to interview us, and that's what we said. And all those genres that now are very different all came out of one heated interview, you know?
Yeah. I want to go back to Welcome to Hell and your artwork and the logo just for a minute, because I'm always intrigued when someone creates an image that becomes iconic. I mentioned the Ramones and the Misfits earlier. And I'm not trying to get into how much money is in your bank account, but is it safe to say the licensing of that image is still a pretty good revenue stream for you?
It is. I mean, it has become more so semi-recently because the other member of the band had done a deal with a company where he was pocketing all the money. So I've getting with another company now with a good legal team, and we're kind of getting it to a point where it'll be a good income.
Yeah. There's a famous line about the Ramones that says they made more money off T-shirts than they did off album sales.
I can well believe that.
Yeah.
I can well
Yeah.
believe that.